Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Let's make some silence first. Meditation equals stillness. Stillness, absence of movement. Absence of movement equals absence of investments. Physical movement, absence of it. Physical stillness, emotional stillness, mental stillness. No movement, no investment, nowhere to go, just staying. Nothing to understand. Nowhere to go. Nothing to do. Stay. Stay. I will answer your question now. Okay, Guruji, how to be immune to worldly desires? Is there a way to balance the mind between desires and pursuit of God, and at the same time survive among humans who are victims of the materialistic world? I don't know who those humans are. Well, first of all, it is important to understand the name of the game. What is human life? What is this that is being experienced? What is the purpose of all of this? So knowing the name of the game which is being played is very important. Because without it, all these assumptions, they create a lot of confusion. And the name of the game is freedom. That is the name of the game. The only game. Nothing else. You may imagine that you are here for doing something, to accomplish something. But the only accomplishment is to know who you are. Return to the source. Knowing God. They are synonymous. Ultimately, they are all synonymous of the same thing. So, those who are in spirituality, the majority believes in reincarnation. This phenomenon of coming to this physical plane, having a life in a physical body, then the death of the physical body and returning to these higher realms, preparing, improving, and coming back again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again. So what is this movement? So those who are proficient, those who know this, who have studied these laws, they say that it's about evolution. That you have to be, to improve, to become a better person. But then it doesn't go much further than this. It doesn't go much beyond of being a better person. They don't know much about it. And this logic has a certain reach, and then it doesn't go any further. It doesn't go beyond that. It is in cycles. The logic falls into the same cycle as reincarnation. And there are those who know more, those who know less, but at the end, it is about these cycles are about clarity. Clarity of the purpose of the game, of the name of the game. Knowing what this is all about. Because after so much evolution, so much involution, you find yourself strapped to this. And that is the reality. You're prison-like. You're in a prison, more or less. A kind of a prison, like stuck in the same dream over and over again, that you want to wake up and you don't find a way. And in the beginning, there's excitement with the innumerous possibilities of life. Curiously enough, you can only follow one. You cannot follow two at the same time. But you envision in your mind infinite possibilities. Not knowing more, this is your vision. and you want to accomplish this and that and this and that. And then that body dies, a new body comes, and the same continues, the same continues. Desiring, filled with desires, no time to fulfill them all, investing, suffering, and all of this. Then it dies again, comes back again, over and over again. With time, some start to feel tired, a sort of tiredness that they cannot explain because they have no memory. It is always like the first time. But even if they know that it isn't the first time, by any means, by visions or by belief or whatever, still they are living life as it is the first one. And some, in a certain point of time, start to question, what is the purpose of all of this? These strong currents of human life, so many following them. There are some that stop in the middle and say, what is the purpose of this all? And instead of looking towards the direction where desires point, they start moving their attention more higher and higher to the roots of it all. And they stop to question. And even as they are being pulled through these worldly desires, there's something there that doesn't want that anymore. But still, at a more superficial level, they want it, like anyone else. So what to do? So it is when this questioning starts coming that certain wisdoms make sense. The quest for the divine starts to make sense, depending on the context that you are. Because sometimes the divine is just something there that can help you fulfill your worldly desires. This is the mindset of the majority, even of those that think it is not that way. And it has to go beyond that. Desires is what binds you to human life, like the iron bars of your prison cell. It is what keeps the investment going. And as long as you're investing, there's no coming out. So in the beginning, there's excitement with that which is new, with the infinite possibilities and all of that. And as you start to learn the name of the game and you don't want it anymore, you will see that something that you had to go after, try to achieve, you will see that it's not easy to let go. It's not easy to leave behind. It will come for you. So first you were eager, you wanted, and it was difficult to get, to achieve. Then you don't want it anymore, you want to let go, and that will be difficult. You will see it will be difficult. Appearances are deceiving. The name of the game is freedom. The infinite possibilities that people see about life They are the infinite possibilities of maintaining your delusion. Everything is there just to distract you, to take your time from that which is most precious. What is the comparison between human love or divine love? Only those who don't know what divine love is can waste more than a second in this question. Others know that there's no comparison. But as you are investing in one, the other you will not see. Not in its full glory. So all human desires, all which is worldly desires, because they are not about the divine, for the divine itself. And there's a difference in this. Because aspiration for the divine is not necessarily a desire which is different, is not necessarily, or it doesn't mean that it isn't a worldly desire. Because if it is aspiring to God to fulfill worldly desires or to bring happiness to that life, it's still a worldly desire. And it's not about freedom, it's about improving the dream, improving the prison. So the worldly desire is the one who gives credibility to the dream, to the life of that individual. It is even that desire for God as a means, not as an end. So the only desire which is worthwhile keeping is the desire for God, for enlightenment, as the end, not as a means. So once you know that the name of the game is freedom, you will have a more clear vision about the world, the purpose of the world, of life, and how to come out of it. What will make you more entangled and what will make you more free. So when you know that, you will understand what those desires that are arising inside of you, whatever that means, what's their purpose, why they arise there. And you will know clearly they are there to distract you, to keep your attention from the goal, to make you spend your most precious belonging, your biggest blessing, which is time. So there's no way to be immune to worldly desires. This freedom from it comes through an understanding of their nature and their purpose. And how these impressions arise, it gives you feedbacks of something which is right or wrong. It all comes together. With the desire comes pain for not having. It makes you believe that you need it. By reason, you will understand. If these desires are making you to come close to God, to abandon human investments, so they are good, at least at that moment, because it will change also. But if they are keeping you more far away, so relinquishing them, they are there to just waste your time. So by reason, not only will you not be dragged by those desires, but even more important than that, you will understand the mechanics, the nature of your own delusion. That is by far the most important. You will see by those desires the aspirations that are still there and the underlying beliefs that are still there. And that is very, very, very important. Is there a way to balance the mind between desires and pursuit of God? Well, the trick is with desires. The mind makes you believe that by accomplishing them, you'll be happy. So it is a desire for wholeness, for being completed, for ultimate happiness. It is, all desires have happiness. The idea behind them is happiness as you achieve them. And depending on the spectrum that they achieve, so this happiness also follows. So all desires talk about happiness in any way. And for some people, just the absence of suffering, it is happiness. For those who live in pain for so long, just to be relieved of that pain, that would be happiness. Those who don't experience pain, they have other ideas of happiness. But it is always about happiness. So happiness, ultimate happiness, this is God realization, self-realization. So all desires are about happiness. So you have to ask yourself, what is real happiness? What do those who know what real happiness is speak about it? Do these things have that happiness? Because that is the mistake. Your mind that doesn't know anything, doesn't know what you're doing here, what is this, what is the purpose of all of that, now knows where happiness is. Of course not. It's just shooting, like a blind man trying to defend himself in the middle of a shootout. He shoots everywhere without seeing, hoping that he will hit the target. So it is a worldly person following his worldly desires, thus shooting, hoping, convinced, then disappointment, and the show goes on. But the idea behind worldly desires is happiness, ultimate happiness. And that is self-realization, God realization. So whatever the desire is promising, it doesn't have it. Neither you are looking for that particular circumstance. You're looking for what you imagine that will come from that circumstance, and that is happiness. So this is aspiration for the divine, aspiration for the source, aspiration for your true self. Not about circumstances. It never was. People are just shooting everywhere to see if they can hit the jackpot, the bingo, the ultimate happiness. And if you ask anyone, they will say, oh no, this will bring happiness. This will, everybody says the same with the same convictions. But they don't know. They haven't found it yet. But they need to believe. Because what would have happened to life if they didn't believe? Oh, it would become less fun for sure. It happens to a lot of people. So keeping the hope is very important. And the hope, that is what sustains delusion. So there's no balance. Either you're going to the source or you're wasting your time. Either you're aspiring for God, directing all your attention to it, or you're wasting your time. So what balance should be here? Knowing the nature of desires clarifies that question. No balance. Because if you want it, if you want it all, focus it all. Those desires, everybody has the experience about their nature. It is evident everywhere, all the time. You hope for a certain kind of happiness, it doesn't come. It doesn't matter if it ends in frustration because there's nothing there, or because you have accomplished what you wanted. And it was good, it was awesome even, but then fades away. It's not of the nature of what you were looking for, because what you were looking for, it's not supposed to fade away. It's supposed to remain. And you're always looking for that happiness everywhere and getting frustrated, imagining that the problem is in others, the problem is in yourself, the problem is with those ideas, those beliefs, unquestioned beliefs. But experience is there. The nature of those worldly desires is revealed every time. It is the belief that keeps it all together despite the fruits of those investments. So no balancing. Through reason, there's absolutely no need for balance between worldly desires and the desire for God reunion, God realization. And I keep repeating this because today this God realization became very questionable. People get even fear of the word because they don't know what that means. Self-realization, yes, everybody knows what it is, knowing who I am. But this has become a big prison for the majority of those who uphold these flags. And at the same time, survive among humans who are victims of materialistic world. No humans are victim of materialistic world. They are all after the same thing. Everybody is convinced according to their level of understanding. Everybody is in the middle of their own confusion. But if you're in the middle of those who follow blindly worldly desires, well, that means you're one of them. More or less, you see? For example, if you really like bananas, but like it very much, and you want to dedicate your life to bananas, to catching bananas, you will find yourself in fields of bananas. And those who are around you, for several reasons, they must share that with you. So in a sense, those that you find around you, they share the same desires that you do. They are there creating a strength, because as more people believe in the same thing, they create a strength in it. More or less because this is herd vision. If the majority believes the same that I do, then I must be right, and they need to feel right. This is why people agglomerate according to beliefs, because the belief has no power of its own. But this, the majority, for the majority, yes, it is powerful. But even in the worldly world, there are those who are intelligent enough to understand that it is the absolute, it is the opposite. The majority is usually wrong. And this knowledge gets used in worldly goals, for example, stock markets and things like that. The few benefit from the delusion of the many, of the majority. Because it is that way. So the world that you are reflects a little bit. There are exceptions, of course, but not so many, not so many. Everybody wants to look at itself as an exception, but usually that's not really the case. But there are exceptions. But usually, your surroundings reflect your investments and your desires and your beliefs. And not many know the real value of it all until the moment they are put in front with the possibility of leaving everything behind. I know many people that are apparently spiritual. They criticize those who are worldly in nature, most of times benefiting from their work, from their attachments, and having a dialogue as a spiritual, enlightened person, a sage, a wise man, a detached person, until they get to the point that they have to follow a different path, a path which is more according to their words. Then misery comes. They realize that things were not the way they were talking about. But this is up to each and every one of you to discover, removing the veils of delusion. It takes time, gives a lot of work, a lot of focus is needed. But usually, your environment is reflecting your beliefs. So, as you still need those, well, you may learn by those surroundings. And learn about your Not your, but the motivations that are there, the desires that are there. And you can start to use those same tools that you use to maintain your delusion, you can start using them to break free from it. The only thing that holds you is delusion, worldly desires, your dependencies, your weaknesses, attachments, fears. When you stop giving excuses and you start taking responsibility for your life, things start to change in a real matter. In a real manner. Being a victim of others and of circumstances sometimes is a very comfortable position. You don't need to take responsibility, you don't need to move. It's easier to give excuses, but understand that you're the only one always that pays the price. And the price is absence of truth, absence of your real self, absence of the divine. And that is for sure the source of all miseries. Okay, that's it for today. Next satsang will be Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning, Brazilian time. Okay, so there's a question. Let me answer it first. Again, reminding you that there's a WhatsApp number that appears on the screen. So it is easier if you just send your questions through that number, because it comes directly to me. It maintains, how do you say this, privacy, because no one will know who is asking the question. So it's better. Many religious texts reveal about every event happening in our lives by God's will. But I find that there are many events which happen under our control and many do not. Well, you see, this is viewed in different ways and usually is according to personal need. So both are correct, but it takes clarity to take the best out of each different concept. So for the one who has surrendered everything, it is according to God's will. What is good, what is bad. But the illusion of control is a need for those who are driven by worldly desires, intense ones. So the one who is just going after God, whatever it comes as an obstacle or as a blessing is God's will. And those who believe this, who have their lives centered into this, they are making their level best, but it is according to God's will. And that has a meaning, a profound meaning, that only they will see what happens. But the confusion with these things starts when those who have a spiritual calling start to use these concepts because they have a spiritual calling, but still they are attached to worldly desires as everyone else. And instead of going through the path of the seeker of truth, which is letting these desires go behind, they are investing in them. And they may say that's according to God's will. Well, ultimately it is true, because if you're God and it is your will, then it is God's will. But it will not be true for you. To be able to see the magic of everything is according to God's will, you must be free, at least free from worldly desires. To be able to see the beauty of it all, because according to God's will equals beauty, equals magic. And this requires a level of purity that is not so easy to achieve. But usually these are just concepts to justify attitudes. According to God's will, that which I don't want to touch, that which I don't want to let go, that which it is difficult and I don't want to go. But that which I believe in, that is where I invest, and that is according to my will, according to my control. But the magic of it all, only the seeker of truth can experience. But they are both right for different mindsets from different maturity levels. Okay. So, like I said, next satsang, Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning. Brazilian time, UTC -3. If you have any questions regarding this subject or other subjects, you can send whenever you want, and I will answer in the next satsang, or whenever it is possible. Okay.